Well, I mean, I say it again. I mean, the public record of the trial of 2001 brought to my attention, at least, things that were happening in 1998 that would have been a lot more useful to get it in 1998. I've just for myself put together what we knew, what the president could have told the American people in 1997 based upon what we knew. If it was a briefing of the Congress and the American people, here's what we know about bin Laden and al-Qaeda in February 1997. Here's what we know in February 1999. Here's what we know in February of 2001. And most of the information would come from open source documents, and because it would have to be delivered in a public fashion. And I think it obliterates this idea that that we had to wait until 9/11 to be able to knock down sanctuaries, to be able to go to the world and get public opinion on our side as well, that we're dealing with somebody who was not trying to attack the French, not trying to attack the Germans, not trying to attack anybody but Americans, and had been very successful dating all the way back to 1992. And we heard in the staff statement something that again, I think we have to understand what was available at the time. But I would say 70% of it was available in February 97. 90% was available in 1999, and 100% was available in February 2001.
Bin Laden's connection to international terrorism first came to the attention of the intelligence community in the early 1990s. According to a former counterterrorism center chief, in testimony before the joint inquiry, Osama bin Laden was first seen as a rich Saudi supporting Islamic extremist causes. He founded the al-Qa'ida organization in 1989 and moved to Sudan in 1991 or 1992. During his time in Sudan, bin Laden built a network of international Islamic extremists and allied himself with other Sunni terrorist groups. Bin Laden drew on a broad network of Islamic radicals fighting in the Balkans, Chechnya, and Kashmir in an attempt, in their eyes, to defend Islam against its persecutors. Fighters from Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Pakistan, and many other countries took up arms to aid their co-religionists, while Muslims from around the world contributed money. Although the specific actions of al-Qaeda often did not enjoy widespread support, the causes it championed were viewed as legitimate, indeed laudable, in much of the Muslim world. In 1992, as U.S. military forces were deploying to Somalia as part of a United Nations operation to provide humanitarian assistance to a starving population, Islamic extremists attacked a hotel in Aden, Yemen, housing U.S. service members supporting that operation. An intelligence community paper from April of 1993 concluded that bin Laden's group almost certainly played a role in that attack. An article from an April 1993 National Intelligence Daily also took note that 300 to 400 Islamic militants had received training the previous year at military camps in Afghanistan funded by Persian Gulf Arabs. One camp was run by an Egyptian and funded by bin Laden. In joint inquiry testimony, former counterterrorism chief Kofor Black reported that the CIA learned in 1993 that bin Laden was channeling funds to Egyptian extremists, and in 1994 that al-Qaeda was financing at least 3 terrorist training camps in northern Sudan. He also noted bin Laden's connection to the 1995 assassination attempt against Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak, and explained that al-Qaeda defector laid out the plans for us and bin Laden's role as a head of a global terrorist network. In November of 1995, 5 Americans were killed when the Office of Program Management at a Saudi National Guard facility in Riyadh was bombed. According to the intelligence community, the cumulative body of evidence eventually suggested that bin Laden and a group he supported were responsible. In May or June of 1996, bin Laden moved from the Sudan to Afghanistan, where he was treated as an honored guest of the Taliban, then the dominant political and military group. According to the Director of Central Intelligence, George Tenet, in his testimony before the joint inquiry, once bin Laden found his safe haven in Afghanistan, he defined himself publicly as a threat to the United States. In a series of declarations, he made clear his hatred for Americans and all we represent. In August 1996, bin Laden issued a public fatwa, or religious decree, authorizing attacks by his followers against Western military targets on the Arabian Peninsula. In February 1998, bin Laden and 4 other extremists issued another public fatwa, expanding the 1996 fatwa to include U.S. military and civilian targets anywhere in the world. In a May 1998 press conference, bin Laden publicly discussed bringing the war home to America. On August 7, 1998, 2 truck bombs destroyed U.S. embassies in Nairobi, Kenya, and Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. 224 people, including 12 Americans, were killed in the attacks. Over 5,000 were injured. The intelligence community confirmed very quickly that these attacks had been carried out by bin Laden's terrorist network. The attacks showed that the group was capable of carrying out simultaneous attacks and inflicting mass casualties. In December of 1999, the Jordanian government arrested members of a terrorist cell that planned to attack religious sites and tourist hotels in connection with the Millennium celebrations. About a week later, in mid-December of 1999, Algerian extremist Ahmed Rassam tried to enter the United States from Canada with bomb-making chemicals and detonator equipment. He was arrested after an alert customs agent asked to search his car, and then he attempted to flee. The investigation revealed that his target was Los Angeles International Airport, and that he was an operative with ties to bin Laden's network. In describing what the U.S. government might have done differently before September 11th, DCI George Tenet testified, quote, "The one thing that strikes me that we all just let pass from the scene after the Millennium threat was this fellow who tried to cross the border from Canada into the United States. There were no attacks. There were no Americans killed. We didn't have any hearings. We didn't talk about failures. We didn't talk about accountability. We just assumed the system would keep working because it prevented the last attack. He tried to cross the border. And I think one of the things that everybody should have done is say, what does this mean, more carefully, rather than just moving from this threat to the next. Assuming that it had been disrupted, what does it mean for the homeland? Should we have taken more proactive measures sooner? Hindsight is perfect, but it is the one event that sticks in my mind," end quote. In October of 2000, bin Laden operatives carried out an attack by boat on the USS Cole as it was refueling in the port of Aden, Yemen. 17 U.S. sailors were killed. An investigation revealed that the USS Sullivans had been the original target of the Cole attack in January of 2000, but the terrorist boat had sunk from the weight of the explosives loaded on in it.